Ever wondered what those fancy shields with eagles and lions actually mean? Did you know kings and nobles used a secret visual code that's hiding in plain sight on castles and cathedrals across Europe? Number 10. The hidden world behind those fancy shields. What if I told you medieval people communicated through a complex system of images that's been largely forgotten today? Heraldry might seem like just decorative shields with animals and weird symbols, but it was actually the medieval equivalent of corporate branding mixed with social media profiles. Every color, animal, and geometric shape carried specific meanings that everyone in medieval society understood instantly. Imagine walking down the street and immediately knowing someone's family history, social status, and even personal achievements just by glancing at their shield or banner. That's exactly how heraldry worked in medieval Europe. The practice began sometime in the 12th century, initially as a practical solution for battlefield identification. When knights were fully covered in armor, how could you tell friend from enemy? Enter heraldry. Those distinctive designs painted on shields weren't just for show, they were literally life-saving identification. The earliest heraldic designs were simple geometric patterns like stripes or crosses that could be recognized from a distance. As warfare evolved, so did heraldry, becoming increasingly elaborate and symbolic. But here's where it gets fascinating. Heraldry quickly evolved beyond the battlefield into an intricate social language. By the 13th century, it had transformed into a complex system of visual communication that pervaded every aspect of noble life. Symbols and colors became coded messages about lineage, marriage alliances, and territorial claims. The system became so important that special officials called heralds were employed to keep track of all the different coats of arms and ensure no one was using symbols they weren't entitled to. Think of them as medieval copyright enforcers with a side of genealogist. Number 9. Colors that speak louder than words. Did medieval people really believe colors had magical powers? The color palette in heraldry wasn't just about aesthetics, each hue carried symbolic weight and meaning. The main colors used in heraldry were known as tinctures and divided into metals gold and silver, usually represented as yellow and white, colors red, blue, black, green, and purple, and furs patterns representing ermine and squirrel fur. These weren't random choices, they were the colors that could be reliably produced with medieval technology and remained recognizable even when faded or viewed from a distance. Red, known as gules in heraldic language, symbolized warrior might, martyrdom, and military strength. It was associated with courage and the willingness to shed blood in battle. Blue azure represented loyalty, truth, and the sky, often associated with the divine. Green vert stood for hope, joy, and sometimes forest lands or agricultural wealth. Black sable conveyed constancy or grief, while purple purpure was rarely used because of its association with royal authority. The metals gold, ore, and silver argent were particularly significant. Gold symbolized generosity and elevation of the mind, while silver represented peace and sincerity. There was even a strict rule called the rule of tincture that prohibited placing color on color or metal on metal to ensure visibility and contrast. Breaking this rule was sometimes done deliberately to make a statement. The arms of the Kingdom of Jerusalem famously used gold crosses on a silver background, breaking the rules to symbolize its holy and exceptional status. The peculiar heraldic terms referring to red as gules or black as sable came from the specialized Norman French vocabulary that developed around heraldry. These terms created an exclusive linguistic world that reinforced the elite status of those who used and understood heraldry. If you knew these terms, you were part of the in crowd that understood the secret visual language decorating everything from castles to manuscripts. Number 8. Animal Kingdom. Why lions ruled medieval imaginations. Why were medieval nobles obsessed with animals they'd never actually seen? The medieval heraldic bestiary went far beyond the familiar farm animals of European life, incorporating exotic creatures and even entirely imaginary beasts. The lion reigned supreme as the single most popular heraldic animal, appearing on countless coats of arms across Europe. As the perceived king of beasts, it symbolized courage, nobility, royalty, and strength. The way the lion was depicted mattered tremendously. A lion rampant, standing on one hind leg, suggested readiness for battle, while a lion passant, walking, conveyed majestic dignity and sovereignty. Eagles came a close second in popularity. The bird of Jupiter and imperial Rome, eagles symbolized power, authority, and perspective. Double-headed eagles looking in two directions simultaneously were particularly associated with empires and the idea of dominion over vast territories looking both east and west. The Habsburg emperors and Russian czars both adopted this potent symbol. But heraldry went beyond the natural world. Dragons, griffins, unicorns, and phoenixes all made regular appearances. The griffin, part eagle, part lion, combined the king of birds with the king of beasts to create a particularly powerful symbol of vigilance and courage. Unicorns, especially popular in Scottish heraldry, represented purity and strength. Dragons typically embodied power and protection of treasure, and their appearance in Welsh heraldry connects to ancient British legends. Some of the strangest heraldic creatures were purely European inventions. The martlet, a bird with tufts instead of feet, symbolized younger sons who had no land to rest upon and had to constantly seek their fortune. The Enfield, with the head of a fox, chest of a greyhound, forelegs of an eagle, body of a lion, and the hindquarters and tail of a wolf, combined the distinctive qualities of multiple predators. The choice of animal often related to qualities the family wished to be associated with, local fauna important to a region, or sometimes as a play on the family name. These are called canting arms. The Corbett family used a raven, corbeau in French, while the Pike family naturally displayed pike fish on their shields. Number 7. Symbols and patterns, the secret code of lines and shapes. Can simple shapes really tell complex stories? Behind every zigzag and checkerboard pattern in heraldry lies a wealth of meaning. The geometric patterns in heraldry, known as ordinaries, are among the oldest heraldic devices. These simple designs, including crosses, diagonal lines, chevrons, inverted V-shapes, and horizontal or vertical divisions, likely originated from the structural reinforcements on early shields before becoming decorative and symbolic elements. The chief, a horizontal band across the top of the shield, often indicated authority or leadership. A bend, a diagonal band from the top right to the bottom left, traditionally suggested a knightly scarf or shoulder belt. The chevron resembled roof rafters and might indicate a family involved in building or a protector of the home. The pale, a vertical stripe down the center, derived from the wooden stakes used in fortifications. Each of these simple designs conveyed specific meanings immediately recognizable to the medieval observer. Beyond these basic shapes, shields could be divided in multiple ways: party per pale, split vertically; party per fess, split horizontally; or quarterly, divided into 4. These divisions often indicated marriage alliances or territorial claims, with different sections displaying the arms of different families joined through marriage or inheritance. Pattern was also crucial. Checkerboard patterns, called chequy, might indicate that a family member had served as a royal treasurer, referencing the counting board used for calculations. Ermine patterns, white with black tufts representing the winter coat of the ermine stoat, were associated with royal robes and parliamentary dignity. Some of the most visually striking heraldic designs used repeating geometric patterns. The Freddy pattern of interlaced diagonal bands resembled lattice or a fishing net, while losangi featured a diamond pattern. Vare and potent patterns derived from stylized representations of squirrel fur, their blue and white alternating shapes creating mesmerizing visual effects centuries before op art. The famous arms of the Beauchamp family featured a red cross with gold crosslets, small crosses, combining religious symbolism with decorative repetition. The intricate Freddy design on the shield of the Audley family created an almost hypnotic visual effect while demonstrating the technical skill of the heraldic artist. Number 6. Hands, stars, and crescents, objects with hidden meanings. Did you know that even the smallest details on medieval shields told intimate family stories? Beyond animals and geometric patterns, heraldry incorporated an astonishing variety of objects, both natural and man-made, each carrying specific symbolic associations. Celestial bodies were particularly popular. Stars, usually depicted as 5 or 6 pointed mullets, represented divine quality and guidance. The crescent moon often indicated a family member had fought in the Crusades or had some connection to the East. Religious symbols abounded, unsurprisingly in a deeply Christian society. Crosses in various forms, from the simple Latin cross to elaborate fleury or patty designs with decorative ends, proliferated across European heraldry. Scallop shells signified someone who had completed the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. Hands in prayer positions represented faith and devotion. Weapons and armor featured prominently swords, military prowess, arrows, readiness for battle, and helmets, wisdom in defense. Tools of trades appeared too, especially in the arms of guild members and merchants. Hammers, wheels, and plows told viewers about a family's origins or traditional occupation. Plant life formed another rich vein of symbolism. Oak trees and acorns represented strength and endurance, while laurel indicated victory. Roses became particularly charged symbols in England during the Wars of the Roses, with the white rose representing the House of York and the red rose the House of Lancaster. The fleur-de-lis, stylized lily, became strongly associated with the French monarchy but appeared across European heraldry as a symbol of purity and perfection. The arms of the Shakespeare family included a spear, a visual pun on the name Shakespeare meaning one who shakes a spear. The Douglas family of Scotland incorporated a heart in their arms, commemorating how a Douglas carried Robert Bruce's heart on crusade after the king's death. The Howard family displayed the Flodden augmentation, a small shield addition showing a wounded lion, granted to them after their victory against Scotland at the Battle of Flodden in 1513. Sometimes the most powerful symbols were the simplest. 3 water bowgets, water carriers, on the shield of the Roos family told the story of an ancestor who supplied water to Crusader armies. A single glove in the arms of the Vere family commemorated an ancestor who supposedly fought a giant and kept the giant's glove as a trophy. Number 5. The language of heraldry. Why Azure bend or isn't just fancy talk. Ever tried to describe a coat of arms in plain English? Good luck. Heraldry developed its own specialized language, a bizarre mixture of Old French, Latin, and English called blazon. This technical vocabulary allowed heralds to describe even the most complex coat of arms with precision and brevity. Learning to speak heraldry was part of a noble education and reinforced class distinctions. The genius of blazon lies in its ability to describe visual information in a standardized format that could be understood across language barriers. Argent, a fess gules between 3 eagles displayed sable, might sound like gibberish, but to a trained eye, this concise description conjures a very specific image: a silver shield with a red horizontal band across the middle, and 3 black eagles with wings spread, 2 above the band and 1 below. Blazon followed strict rules of description, moving from the field background to the principal charge's main figures and then to secondary elements. Position and attitude were precisely defined. A lion could be rampant, rearing, passant, walking, siegent, sitting, or dormant, sleeping. Even tiny details like a protruding tongue, langed, or claws, armed, would be specified with their colors. The vocabulary of blazon created an exclusive linguistic world that reinforced the elite status of those who used and understood heraldry. If you understood what azure, 3 fleurs-de-lis, or meant a blue shield with 3 gold lilies, the royal arms of France, you were announcing your education and social position. While it seems archaic today, blazon was remarkably efficient. The description, or an eagle displayed sable, would produce essentially the same image whether interpreted by a herald in England, France, or Germany: a gold shield with a black eagle shown frontally with wings spread. This standardization helped heraldry function as an international visual language throughout medieval and Renaissance Europe. Number 4. Family stories written in symbols. How heraldry recorded history. What if your family history was written not in words but in pictures? Heraldry functioned as a form of visual genealogy, with shields evolving over generations to tell the story of family connections, marriages, and significant achievements. The practice of quartering, dividing a shield into sections to display multiple family arms, became a visual family tree showing marital alliances and inheritances. When an heiress, a woman with no brothers to inherit, married, her husband would often add her family's arms to his own, either by quartering or by placing her arms on a small shield, called an inescutcheon, in the center of his own. Over generations, the shields of great families became increasingly complex as they accumulated quarterings from various marriages. The shield of the 18th Duke of Norfolk contained a staggering 719 quarterings, representing centuries of strategic marriages and accumulated titles. Beyond marriage connections, heraldry recorded significant achievements and royal favors through augmentations of honor, special editions granted by monarchs to commemorate notable service. After Sir Edward Pellew rescued 500 people from a sinking ship, King George III granted him an augmentation showing a shipwreck. The Howard family received a special addition to their arms commemorating their victory at Flodden Field against the Scots in 1513. Heraldry even recorded tragedies and disgraces. When a noble line died out, their arms might be displayed reversed or broken. A red band called a baton sinister, running from top right to bottom left, indicated illegitimate descent, a permanent visual reminder of circumstances of birth. The visual record provided by heraldry becomes especially valuable for historians when documentary evidence is scarce. Tomb effigies, church windows, and architectural decorations preserved in stone and glass often outlasted fragile paper records. The heraldic achievements displayed at the funeral of Sir Philip Sidney in 1587 provided detailed information about his family connections when written records were incomplete. Perhaps most remarkably, heraldry could compress complex political messages into simple visual statements. When Henry VII combined the White Rose of York with the Red Rose of Lancaster after ending the Wars of the Roses through his marriage, the resulting Tudor rose became a powerful symbol of reconciliation and a new political order. This visual shorthand communicated the king's legitimacy and right to rule more effectively than any written proclamation. Number 3, not just for knights, how heraldry spread beyond the battlefield. Think heraldry was only for sword-swinging warriors, think again. While heraldry began on the battlefield, it quickly expanded beyond military identification to become a comprehensive visual system used by non-combatants, institutions, and even towns and cities. By the 13th century, women were using heraldry despite never setting foot on a battlefield. A noblewoman would typically use her father's arms until marriage, then display her husband's arms alongside her own, often on a lozenge-shaped shield rather than the knight's pointed shield. Clergy adopted heraldry enthusiastically, combining family arms with symbols of their ecclesiastical office. Bishops would display their family arms with a mitre above the shield, while abbots used a crooked staff called a crozier. The papacy developed its own heraldic tradition, with each pope adopting personal arms that would be displayed alongside the papal keys of St. Peter. Towns, guilds, universities, and corporations all embraced heraldic imagery. The City of London's arms feature the cross of St. George with a sword in the first quarter, representing the city's patron saint. Oxford University's arms show an open book with the motto Dominus Illuminatio Me, the Lord is my light. Guild arms often incorporated tools of their trade. The London Company of Barber Surgeons displayed razors and surgical instruments. Even peasants and commoners encountered heraldry regularly, though they couldn't legally display arms themselves. Coats of arms appeared on town gates, market crosses, coins, and in church windows. Public tournaments were spectacular heraldic displays where spectators of all classes could see the pageantry of armorial bearings. Heraldic imagery on tavern signs, often derived from the arms of the local lord, created a visual vocabulary understood by a largely illiterate population. As trade and commerce expanded in the later Middle Ages, merchants began adopting heraldry-inspired marks to identify their goods and property. These weren't true heraldic arms but served similar functions of identification and quality assurance. Eventually, some successful merchants were granted genuine coats of arms, marking their rise in social status. By the 15th century, heraldry had penetrated virtually every aspect of medieval visual culture. From magnificent cathedral windows to humble pilgrim badges, from royal seals to beer mugs, heraldic imagery created a visual universe of identification and belonging that crossed social boundaries while simultaneously reinforcing them. Number 2, rules and rebels, who controlled this visual language. Did anyone actually police this system, or was it a medieval free-for-all? Medieval heraldry operated under strict regulations that developed over centuries. By the 14th century, most European kingdoms had established officials called heralds who maintained registers of approved arms, conducted genealogical research, and organized tournaments and ceremonies. These weren't merely ceremonial roles. Heralds wielded significant authority to grant new arms and resolve disputes over who had the right to display particular symbols. In England, the College of Arms, founded in 1484 but building on earlier institutions, became the ultimate authority on heraldic matters. The college was headed by kings of arms Garter, Clarencieux, and Norroy, each with jurisdiction over specific regions. Similar institutions developed across Europe. France had its own College of Arms, while the Holy Roman Empire established the office of Imperial Herald. These authorities conducted visitations, essentially heraldic audits where families had to prove their right to display arms. Those using unauthorized arms might face fines or public humiliation. As one 17th-century herald complained, divers mean persons have and do daily presume to bear arms without proper authority. The heralds saw themselves as protecting an important system of social distinction from unauthorized users, much like modern trademark enforcers. Not everyone respected these rules. As merchant wealth began to rival aristocratic power in the later Middle Ages, wealthy commoners sometimes simply assumed arms without official authorization. Some paid artists to paint family shields that looked impressively ancient despite being newly invented. In response, heralds conducted increasingly rigorous genealogical investigations to separate legitimate armigerous families from pretenders. Regional variations complicated enforcement. Scottish heraldry developed under its own Lord Lyon King of Arms with different traditions than English practice. German heraldry allowed greater freedom in design but maintained strict class distinctions in who could display certain elements. Spanish heraldry incorporated distinctive traditions reflecting the peninsula's complex history of Christian and Moorish interaction. The rules themselves evolved over time. Early heraldry was relatively simple, but by the 15th century, regulations had developed around every aspect of display. Who could use supporters, figures holding up the shield, who could display helms of various types, and which way the helmet could face. The system became increasingly elaborate just as its military origins were becoming less relevant in the age of gunpowder and professional armies. Number 1. Modern echoes, where medieval heraldry lives on today. Has this medieval code completely vanished, or are you seeing it without realizing? Look around and you'll find heraldic influences hiding in plain sight. National flags, sports team logos, university emblems, and corporate brands all draw on heraldic principles, often without their creators even realizing it. The stars and stripes of the American flag, the maple leaf of Canada, and the Union Jack all employ heraldic design principles of contrast, simplicity, and symbolic meaning. Police badges worldwide incorporate heraldic elements, shields, eagles, lions, and mottos, directly descended from medieval practice. Military insignia continue the tradition of unit identification that gave birth to heraldry in the first place. The U.S. Army's 1st Infantry Division is still known as the Big Red One for its distinctive shoulder patch showing a red numeral 1 on a shield shape. Corporate logos often follow heraldic design principles unconsciously. Ferrari's prancing horse derives directly from the arms of a World War I flying ace. The Starbucks mermaid echoes heraldic sea maidens that appeared on medieval shields. Porsche's logo incorporates elements from the arms of Stuttgart, where the company is headquartered. Popular culture keeps heraldic imagery alive in fantasy literature and media. Game of Thrones' elaborate family symbols, the Lannister lion, Stark direwolf, and Targaryen dragon, follow traditional heraldic principles while adding imaginary backstories. Harry Potter's 4 Hogwarts houses with their distinctive animal symbols echo medieval collegiate heraldry. Video games like Skyrim and World of Warcraft incorporate heraldic elements into their world-building. In the United Kingdom, heraldry remains a living legal tradition. The College of Arms continues to grant new coats of arms to individuals and organizations, adapting ancient practices to modern sensibilities. Recent grants have included computer chips, DNA helixes, and references to LGBTQ+ identity, proving heraldry can evolve while maintaining connections to its medieval roots. Family history enthusiasts have embraced heraldry as a window into ancestral stories. Heraldic databases and research tools allow people to explore how their surnames connect to historical arms. While many commercially available family crests are historically dubious, genuine interest in heraldic traditions has sparked educational programs at museums and universities. Perhaps most significantly, heraldry's visual principles, simplicity, distinctiveness, symbolic meaning, and adaptability, continue to influence graphic design across media. The medieval heralds who codified rules for creating memorable, instantly recognizable symbols were practicing brand identity centuries before the concept existed in modern form. When designers create logos with balanced composition, symbolic elements, and distinctive color schemes, they're drawing on principles refined in the age of knights and castles. Did you know you're surrounded by medieval visual codes that most people can no longer read? Which secret symbols might be hiding in your own family history?